Hey guys, this is Gigi with GoGo Glam. This video tutorial is just going to walk you through our standard balloon garland assembly. So when you purchase this, you'll have two options. You'll have option A, which is just going to be the Garland Strip, and it's going to end up longer than this one. It'll have a slightly leaner appearance to it, and you will not use any glue dots. And then this is option B. This is just the same amount of balloons. It's going to be a little bit shorter. It'll be about 8 feet. Depending on how you arrange it, and you're going to use glue dots to kind of add the 5-inch balloons and just put some of the 11-inch balloons and sort of tuck them in and around. I do talk about this in the video later, but you do want to keep in mind that if you're doing a pick your own colors collection and there are no 16-inch colors available in your color choices, you'll have extra 11-inch balloons just to kind of create the same look. But not every color is unfortunately manufactured in 16-inch, but we will definitely try to make sure that you get the right spread in the layout, just to make sure your whole look kind of comes together. It's always helpful to us if you let us know if you want to do color blocking, which is how this is. You have every color grouped together by itself, or if you want to mix all of the colors up, which then you would obviously rotate and alternate, and this would have a more blended look to it. That helps a lot with how we distribute the colors to you. So that definitely lets us know what your final kind of goal is for your look. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. We're gonna start with option A, and then we will go through how to do this one here. The first build that I'm going to show you how to do is going to be option A, which is just putting all of the balloons onto the Garland Strip. You don't use any glue dots. You're going to end up with sort of a long, leaner look to your garland. So if you're looking for more of a draping, or you want to drape it across the wall and you don't want it to be super full and thick, this is the way that you'll want to assemble it. So I'm going to get all of the balloons blown up, and then we will go through that step by step. In our frequently asked questions, we do have some tips on how to inflate the double stuff balloons. I use an air compressor, and then we have a commercial grade electric pump because the retail ones are not going to work for the double layered exactly. There's a couple of tricks and hacks that you can do, but you're still going to want to have a hand pump handy, which I have to grab one because I do need it for the 5-inch balloons. When I do inflate the balloons, I'm going to press them into the ground, or if you're using some other kind of inflator, you're going to want to just press into them. That's going to make them take on a more round shape, and you don't want to fill them full to an oblong shape like you would with helium, because they don't fit together quite as nice when you're doing garland. So you want to kind of have them more of a round shape instead of a full oblong shape. So we'll just do that. If you're struggling with tying your balloons, you're going to want to just grab the double stuff specifically. You're going to just want to grab the inside balloon and tie it around the outside, like so. That's probably the easiest way to do it. You know, we fill hundreds and hundreds of balloons, so I've just gotten proficient at it. But if you're having a hard time, just pull that middle balloon out, and I'm going to show you. Once you pinch the inside balloon off as well, no air is going to escape from the outside, because there actually isn't really air technically in this outer balloon. So I have most of the 11-inch balloons inflated. I just wanted to show you the 16s. I chose this particular color combination because a lot of these aren't available in 16-inch, so it just gives you an idea of a different way of assembling it when you don't have 16-inch colors, because not every color is manufactured in 16-inch size. And in general, I think we have about half as many 16 inches as all the other ones. It's just a manufacturer thing. Some colors just aren't made in that size, unfortunately. But you can still get the same kind of fullness and look, because you'll get two 11-inch balloons instead of a 16-inch balloon, so you'll kind of just be able to create the same look. But for the 16-inch balloons, same thing with inflating them. You just want to push them into the ground so that they're nice and round. You want to fill them till they're round. And then for sure in the 16s, the 24s, and the 36s, when you're tying them, you really do want to grab the inside tail and tie it around the outside. It's just going to give you a much easier time with those. Okay, Okay, now for the 5-inch balloons, you don't want to use your hand pump. These can be a little bit tricky if this gets bunched up or the balloon gets bunched up on here. We do have a video on how to do this, so go ahead and make sure you take a peek at that. Same thing with these, you don't want to overinflate them, you want them to be nice and round. So you can kind of do somewhere between here and here. And generally what I'll do for the 5-inch balloons, I will inflate them probably a little bit too full, and then I just push them into my leg and let a little air out, and then tie them off. It's the easiest way to do it.
Okay, so just to kind of show you how the Garland strip works, when you go to insert it, hopefully you can see this little keyhole here, there's a larger keyhole and a smaller keyhole. So you just want to take the end of the balloon, you want to pop it into the larger keyhole and slide it over. You actually don't want to pull this down past this here. It's going to feel like it's more secure, but what happens is you can puncture the balloon and then they can start to leak. So we've had that happen. So at first it's going to feel really floppy. It's going to feel like this whole thing isn't very secure, but as soon as it starts to fill up and shape out, it's going to be just fine, and you're not going to have that feeling. So hopefully you guys can, there we go, see that? Super easy. And then I'm going to show you quick when you have the 5-inch balloons how you're going to do that. Okay, so I've just got a couple random colors that I grabbed because this is just easier with the way that I'm situated here. So again, I've got the keyhole, and we're just going to take 2 of these. You don't have to do them both at the same time, but you can. Pop them through the large keyhole and then slide them both over like that. And then they're just going to be there. So that's how the double ones are going to go in, and that's how the single ones are going to go in, just so you kind of have a closer look at that.
Now I have my Garland strip. I'm just going to start putting balloons on. I will generally start a couple of keyholes down just in case I change my mind or I need to add something later. It's just sort of it's more of just a mistake prevention than anything. So with this one, your pattern is always going to be 3 11-inch balloons. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3. And then it'll be 2 5-inch balloons, and those are going to go into a single keyhole like I showed you before. And the double layered ones I have to kind of do one at a time because they're just thicker and just easier to do that. So 1, 2, 3, 2 5-inch balloons, and then actually it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 balloons, and then you're going to do 2 5-inch and start the whole pattern over again. So because I don't have 16-inch in deep blush, I'm going to put 4 11-inch balloons here. If I was putting a 16-inch balloon there, it's going to go 11-inch, blank space, 16-inch, 11-inch. That's going to be on your written instructions, but I'll just go over that again. It'll be 11-inch, a blank keyhole, a 16-inch, and then an 11-inch. So you just have to kind of remember that it's just a little bit different. If you have a 16-inch in that color, you're just going to skip a hole. If you have all 11-inch, you're just going to fill 4 holes. So we're just going to keep going with that pattern. So sometimes when I put the 5s in, I'll put one on one side and one on the other. Sometimes I'll put them on the same side. It just kind of depends on how things are fitting together. You just want it to kind of fit next to the things next to the other balloons. So there's no like one way to do that. Okay, so vanilla, we do actually have a 16-inch balloon. So now we're going to do one 11-inch balloon. We're going to skip the next keyhole. We're going to put the 16-inch balloon in, and then we're going to put an 11-inch balloon next to it. So with the 16-inch balloons, whenever you're using them in the garlands, you always want to skip one hole on either side of it. Doesn't really matter. Just you need to skip a hole next to it so that it's going to fit nicely. When you first start assembling it, it's going to feel like you can put balloons in every single keyhole, even with the 16s. And then when you go to go to start hanging it or moving it around, balloons are going to start popping off because it doesn't really have anywhere to sit in there. So this gives it just a little bit of a space, and then when it is laying on the wall, it'll kind of create a little space in there. So just be aware of that. Don't panic when you first start and it feels kind of floppy. Don't worry about skipping those. Don't worry about skipping those holes. Okay, so now that we have finished this garland, a couple things. You can either cut off the rest of your garland strip. You can use it for another time. You can take it and tuck it up and wrap it in so that you can keep the full length and then come back and just buy balloons, and you can keep reusing these. As long as you're careful with them when you're pulling the balloon garland apart, these can be used several times. Ours, unless we step on them or they get twisted or crimped, they can just keep being used until the keyholes start to stretch out. So totally personal preference on whether you want to cut it or wrap it or hide it. But yeah, so we'll get it hung up here quick and you can see what it looks like. You're going to get fishing line with your order, but I'm just going to show you how to hang this using curling ribbon because it's easier for you to see. So you just want to cut a length. The length is going to depend on how far from the ceiling that you want it. This is probably more than I need. I always start with at least an arm length or more. I'm using command hooks. We have them all over our wall because we're constantly taking stuff up and down. These are really great. They come off of the wall really easily, but I think they're problematic with textured walls. There are certain walls they just don't stick to, in which case you could put a small picture nail and just hang your garland underneath it. Obviously you don't want it to pop the balloons. So we want it to be up here. So I always go in about, 2 balloons, 3 balloons maybe, not too far, unless you want it to drape down this way. Literally just tie a knot, make a loop, go like that and hang it up. If only it was that simple, right? And the nice thing about that is if you need to shorten it, all you have to do is just tie that knot a little bit higher, and that's easy enough. So I'm just going to rearrange a couple things quick. And the length of this garland is 10 feet, just to kind of give you an idea. So we're just going to, generally about halfway through, if I'm going to drape it, I'm just going to run another piece of ribbon through there. So once again, we have this tail. We can just take that, put it up through the back, hide it, or cut it off the bottom. So, and then I'll just come in. I will often go in and just rearrange a little bit so you can kind of see the 16-inch balloons, making sure that they're really front and center. And take some of these little 5s and pull them up. So you want to kind of rearrange a little once you've gotten it hung, just to make sure it's sort of looks exactly how you want it to. Like so. Okay, so this is option A. This is just putting everything onto the garland strip. Pretty quick and easy. And we're just going to start pulling it apart and show you how to do it with option B, which is the same number of balloons. So I'm not going to completely disassemble this. I'm just going to start shimmying all the balloons upwards and pulling the 5-inch ones out, because essentially the difference is you'll save the 5-inch balloons for the very end, you'll hang the garland, and then you'll start applying the 5-inch balloons. So, okay, so for option B, it's going to be just a little bit different for the build pattern. You just have to kind of remember that when you're going to insert your 16s, you have to skip a hole on one side of it. That's just to make sure that it fits and to make sure that the length is right. So right now I'm just essentially moving up and filling in all of these empty holes with the 11-inch balloons. I've gotten to a point where I need to put a 16-inch balloon of this color in, so I've done 4 11-inch. I'm going to skip a hole, and then I'm going to put the 16-inch one in there. And then I'm going to follow it up with more 11-inch balloons. So just remembering, if you have a shorter garland or you have, less than 4 or 5 of a color, you'll have to kind of make a little bit of an adjustment. So just sort of remember that if you're doing color blocking, just to kind of be aware of that. So if you're at a spot where you feel like you have something where it's like popping off or it's not staying, just pull it off and set it aside, and then we'll just add it back in later. And so now once we've moved everything up, the length of this is going to obviously be shorter. This is about 8 feet, so you're going to lose about 2 feet of length when you shift everything upwards. So we're just going to go ahead and get this hung up, and then we'll start arranging a little bit. All right, so we have it hung up, and what I'm going to do, there's a couple of, there's like a green sage balloon that's sort of tucked back here. I'm going to pull that off. I'm going to, I might leave this color how it is, although, we'll see. Sometimes on the end of the garlands, I will actually take, and it's the only spot that I will put 2 balloons into 1 keyhole, the very, very end. I'll put sometimes put 2 11-inch into 1 keyhole because it keeps it from sort of being droopy. If your garland is touching the ground, you probably don't need to do that, but it's just really more for when it's hanging up. So we have an extra green one, an extra blue one, and I'm probably going to pull a Dijon one out of the back of here, and probably pull rosewood in here. So again, not a significant change in the look. Right here, we're gonna tack that down and start filling that in. So, pulling these out doesn't dramatically decrease this part of it. So now we can start kind of adding those in different spots. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna get our glue dots. And just so this stays, I'm gonna just put one here just to get that to behave. And this is where you kind of you might want to stand back and see like where you want to bulk it up. It's hard when you're right underneath it. So I'm probably going to start right here. And I like these ones I like to kind of tip down so that you don't end up seeing the tail. So you kind of want to figure out where you want that glue dot, somewhere towards the top. One thing to really know that's important, once you put the glue dots on and you stick them, don't move them. They will pop. So they are kind of like there and they're not moving. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put some 5-inch ones in here. I always like to pre-place it and figure out about where on the balloon the glue dot needs to go. That way you don't have a mistake or you don't stick it and it looks kind of weird. So I'm going to do that. Put a glue dot, stick it in there. And then because I have this hole right here, and that's where I like to fill, I'm going to put that here. This is also kind of why you really, with the 5-inch, you don't want to get them to be too big because they actually fit better if they're sort of small and round. They're going to fit in these little nooks and crannies a little bit easier. So I've got for the 11-inch balloons, I would use like 2 or 3 glue dots. I wouldn't try to use one. If you're having a hard time getting the glue dots to stick to the balloons, sometimes if there's a lot of static electricity, it just gets kind of stubborn. Just put it in, just rub it on like that and just peel it off. That's kind of a little trick that works. Okay, so I finished adding these ones on here, and I did end up pulling one of the mauve purples off, and I just slid it around kind of the back just to make it a little bit wider and bulkier. So when all's said and done, you've got yourself an 8-foot garland here. One thing I wanted to note was that these are the chalk matte balloons, but I'm under super bright lights and a ring light. So they look a lot more reflective than they're going to look in natural lighting and daylight. They will have the most matte appearance outdoors in natural lighting, and if you do have them outdoors in sunlight, they're actually going to take on a super matte appearance because the latex will start to oxidize a little bit, and the oxidation process actually makes them even more matte than they are. So just kind of be aware of that the lighting in here is like, oh. So and anyway, no matter what, all of our matte balloons are still somewhat reflective of light, so you do have to just kind of bear that in mind. But they're definitely more opaque, solid, and they're a lot more matte than just the single layered colors. So here is that final